Mode.
Good afternoon, everyone, and I would like to welcome all of you to today's webinar. The approach to the webinar today is to inform you of the different options available for going paperless. If you're attending today, you're either curious about the steps to becoming paperless, or you are currently in the process and you may want to streamline it a little more. We'd like to conduct this webinar today in sort of an open forum setting, giving you the opportunity to voice your thoughts and concerns, not only with us, but also with your colleagues joining us as well. If you have any questions or comments, please raise your hand and we will unmute you. Or you can enter your comments within the question and chat panes to the right of this window, and a training representative will answer your questions. With me today is a panel well-versed in the many aspects of Avamark. There is Dell Carter, an Avamark training affiliate. Dell worked as an Avamark technical support director for many years and left MSS to train clinics full-time. He's trained hundreds of clinics and is an expert in the field of paperless. Next, we have Chuck Bennett, the coordinator of hardware here at MSS. Jeremy Bennett, the manager of client relations, Sarah Crum, the manager of training, and myself, Jessica Kruger, a training specialist and former veterinary technician. We don't intend today to tell you how you can go paperless, but merely give you the tools to help you customize your Avamark to work the most efficient and productive way for you. Sarah, let's get this discussion started. What is your definition of paperless?
Well, that would be the elimination of paper, right?
That's true, but a company that has gone paperless does not truly run without the use of paper of any fashion. But the amount of paper and clutter has been reduced dramatically. So in reality, we're not paperless, just have less paper. You'll find that there's still going to be needs for printed patient charts, printed statements, printed reminder cards, etc. The overflow of paperwork falling from your desk can be overwhelming. Much of the paper that we use in today's office is totally unnecessary when we have the use of computers and the internet. We get several calls per week from clinics wanting to go paperless and not knowing where to start. I think to start you out, you need to understand that going paperless is a progressive transition. Trying to go paperless too quickly can be overwhelming and create tension between you and your staff. You want to start off at a pace that's right for you and progressively move into a paper-free environment and recognize that it's an ongoing process. Try to develop a plan that contains easy-to-follow steps for your staff to follow and set reasonable milestones. The plan should contain your goals, how you envision achieving them, and your targeted time frame. By establishing these target dates, your staff will become more motivated to contribute to the process. Jeremy, are you there? Jeremy?
Yes, ma'am, I'm here.
Okay. Is there any other suggestions that you have for maybe going paperless for clinics, other ways that they could start to go paperless?
Basically, the topics we're going to discuss today should help you guys get started. Mainly go with the appointment calendar. Learn one thing really well at a time, and until you have that mastered, don't stress out the staff to push them on to the next thing.
Okay. So utilizing your computer and software, the workflow can progress and blast into a new realm of productivity, efficiency, organization, and convenience. In turn, creating an environment where Avamark does the work for you. This will in turn lower stress levels and make working more enjoyable. So, what are some benefits to becoming paperless or paper-light? Better organization. Everything is literally right there at your fingertips. Plus, multiple people can work on one medical record at once. Legibility. No more secret decoder pens for your staff, right? Yay. Everyone can actually read the records, which is very important when it comes to medical care. Improved communication. Great staff communication quickly converts to better client communication. The client sees you as organized, and his or her wait time is diminished when you can answer questions at the click of a mouse. Efficiency. Paperless practices don't waste time searching, refiling, or culling charts. The system can perform this function with a few clicks of a mouse. Thoroughness. Having your system template-based means you're less likely to skip important steps in your protocols. Also, you can have the option of accessing your patient medical records from anywhere, making it easier to travel for work or personal reasons. Space saving. Clinics that are fully computerized, their medical records save tons of space and supplies. Resource saving. What about the green factor? Less paper means less consumption of resources, which is something more consumers consider when deciding where to spend their money. Sarah, are there any other benefits that you can think of when going paperless?
Well, you know, just as you stated, Jessica, the main benefits are that it will save considerable amounts of time and money, you know, by reducing the costs for the storage and the manpower and printing and et cetera.
Right. Now, I could talk about the reasons why to go paperless until I'm blue in the face, but let's bring up just a few drawbacks that may be deterring people from taking the first leap. Typing requirements. For some, typing notes seem time-consuming and tedious. These staff members often write in the exam room only to retype the exact information later. If you have a typophobia, there is software that you can purchase from nuance.com called Dragon Naturally Speaking. This program integrates with Avamark and allows you to talk to your computer and watch your spoken words instantly appear on the patient's medical record. Security issues. Many practices shy away from the paperless setting because they question whether the medical record will hold up in court. Honestly, we get this question a lot. I have heard many suggestions from mailing your backup to yourself in a sealed envelope to show the postmark date to using an encrypted off-site backup service like the Data Vault service we offer here at MSS. Honestly, it is more difficult to tamper invisibly with a paper chart than it is an electronic record. Expense. A computerized practice can require more robust computer stations and a solid network in the beginning. Before you decide to go paperless, be sure your system is up to specifications by contacting our technical support. If you require a system upgrade, contact our ancillary company, MSS IT Solutions, to get the products that are right for you and your practice. They offer a variety of business class computers and accessories. What works well for one practice may not work well for you. The products you purchase must be based on an analysis of your current network. Dell,
Yes,
are you there?
I'm here.
Okay. Are there any other drawbacks that you run across when training clinics that deter them from going paperless?
Well, I don't call it drawbacks, but it's more attitude than anything else. It's whether or not the entire staff is on board. And that's, you have to make sure that they are, because otherwise it will create a problem. But that's really the only drawback that I've ever seen.
That's very true. The clinic I worked at, we had a receptionist that worked there for 30 years. And when we were going to go paperless, she dug in her heels, and it was the hardest to get everybody on board at that point because she just would not do it. Let's talk about maybe some other equipment that you might want to consider in your practice. Document scanners. If you prefer to save archived medical records electronically to save space and add security, scanning documents and using software for document management will allow you to go paperless with ease. Barcode scanners. This allows you to scan items directly into medical history. On-site lab equipment. This will allow you to perform in-house laboratory procedures, which can be imported directly into Avamark. Digital radiographs. Avamark has the ability to import DICOM images directly into its internal image editor or dental chart. specialty printers like Dymo and PET Detect ID band printers for labeling and identification. Digital cameras. These allow you to capture images of a treatment progression or to just include a picture of the patient on the chart or invoice. That's pretty important to a client to see a picture of their pet on the invoice. Credit card equipment and hardware. For use with maybe McAllister Payment Solutions, which fully integrates within Avomark's invoicing windows. And lastly, what about high-speed internet access? This allows you to download lab test results from reference laboratories, and it also allows you quick access to online product information, resources, and even Avomark updates. Chuck, are you there? I think I may have lost Chuck.
No, I should be here.
Okay.
I think I'm here.
Are there any other pieces of equipment that you recommend for hospitals wanting to make the paperless transition?
Basically, you've covered just about everything that they need. My advice would be to take a hard look at their hardware that they currently run. Make sure that they are on the higher side of our hardware recommendations. Since their dependence on hardware is going to be that much more as a paperless practice, they need to make sure their equipment is up to the task. Another thing to consider is storage. Make sure that you have plenty of room on your server computer to store these photos, attachments, forms, a lot of these digital items that you're going to want to keep. And you touched also on the off-site storage. That is something that I can't express enough about. People really need to look at that. Off-site backup is a wonderful thing for many, many reasons. But whenever they go digital, they are pretty much putting everything, their entire future on the computer. So they need to make sure that what they do is going to be recorded successfully.
Okay. Is some of this hardware is available through us?
Sure, we can get just about anything they need here with in IT Solutions. What they can do is just give us a call, and we'll go through what they have, what they want to do, and give them a good evaluation on what they're going to need, send them an estimate, and they can take a look at it.
Great. Great. So that may be an option for everyone that's wanting to start maybe to go paperless gradually. Give Chuck a call, and he can help you out with some hardware. Now that we've talked about the benefits and even the pitfalls, what's the next step? Learn to use the software. The first major step to going paperless is actually right in front of you, and that is Avomark. You have a very powerful tool, and all that's needed is you. It's like the saying goes, just add water, right? Let's now talk about the things that you already have at your fingertips that can be utilized to make this transition smooth. As we review these features, take note of the ones that you feel will benefit your practice. Remember, not every practice is the same, so what works well for your practice may not work at all for yours or for others. Also, keep an open mind. You may think, oh, I don't want to use this feature, but you never know. It may come in handy sometime. Del.
Yes.
In your experience, is there a certain place that you usually tell people to start when they'd like to go paperless?
Well, the first thing I tell them is they need to make sure that the program itself has been set up properly to enhance that paperless feature. In other words, you've got to go through and make sure everything has been set properly to be able to do the paperless. And then, I usually start with that first. That's through the advanced options hospital setup. And then from there, how am I going to keep my records? Where am I going to keep them? And I normally would then go into the medical condition record, because that's what I usually recommend, is using the actual SOAP or the medical condition record versus just having a note.
Right, right. Here in the training department, we always get the phone calls about, I want to go paperless. Can you tell me how to go paperless? And like I've said before, we can't tell you how to go paperless. All we can do is give you the tools, and then you implement it in the way that works best for your practice. So I'm going to start with the basics, and I'm just going to show you the features that are already included in your system that can help you make the paperless transition. We're not going to go into great detail as to how to use those features, but we're just going to talk briefly about them. And if you want to learn some more detailed information, we do have another webinar in a couple weeks that will go into a little bit more detail. So let's first start out with the appointment calendar. Now, this provides you with multiple benefits, including rapid patient scheduling, flexibility of scheduling lengths, and schedule forecasts of appointment availability by provider or room. The appointment calendar is also a floating window, meaning it can stay open at all times while working in other areas of Avamark. This may be beneficial for those practices that have dual monitors at the front desk. Maybe they'd always want to have one computer that has the dual monitors with the appointment calendar open and the CID open as well. What about the boarding calendar? Did you know that the boarding calendar will calculate charges automatically if it's set up properly? It allows you to define any number of boarding facilities, including the species and weight ranges appropriate for each facility. This gives Avamark the ability to automatically calculate the boarding charges appropriate for the patient being checked out of boarding. Client and patient notes. Keeping notes associated with your clients and patients are a convenient way to record comments within the client and patient notes windows. These notes can be included on a patient chart and shown on the screen by clicking on the notes attachments. General and medical alerts. What about those times when you would like Avamark to automatically alert you of any concerns regarding the client's status, a patient's behavior, or chronic medical condition? This can all be done through the utilization of the alerts windows. These alerts can be manually displayed or automatically displayed. Estimates or treatment plans. You can build a preset list of commonly used groups of services and items through the canned estimate feature. You also have the ability to create an estimated treatment plan for just one patient. Once estimates are created for patients, they're automatically stored in the patient's medical record for future use, where you can then post them to medical history, print them, or decline them just with a right-click option. The follow-up list. This feature allows you to call clients following specific treatments to verify a patient is progressing. These follow-ups can be generated manually or automatically. It gives your staff a centrally located area to record all medical progress notes directly into the patient's medical record without ever having to leave this window. Additional data fields. These allow you to add additional fields of information to those currently existing in Avamark, whether it's in a client, a patient, medical history, whiteboard, etc., giving you the ability to fully customize your system to your likings. Now, patient charts. The patient chart serves as a central location to print all information regarding the patient's past medical history. And yes, I did say print. I know we're talking about paperless, but the paperless clinic I worked, we actually printed out a patient chart to look at the patient chart before the patient was seen. When using this feature, you have the option to choose from a list of options to tell Avamark what you would like to have included on this hard copy. What about documents and forms? This allows you to keep your clients informed about their pet's health by utilizing this feature. Avamark relies on its capacity to work with Microsoft Word to meet this need. These documents and forms can include merge words to make the documents customized to the patient. And documents and forms can be included with the client's invoice automatically or manually. Last is the controlled substance report. I am always surprised at the number of clinics that don't utilize the internal controlled substance report. This is used to satisfy any regulatory requirements veterinary clinics may need to meet for the dispensation of scheduled drugs. Now, of course, your inventory items do need to be set up properly in order for this area to work correctly. Why would you write all of this down in a paper log when all that's required is a C action code to get this to start working? Now, Jeremy and Dell, are you both there?
Yes.
Yes.
Are there any other basic features that you feel should be covered? Just the basics.
Well, I suppose note glossary wouldn't be considered basics, but that is, to me, vital when you're considering going paperless or Paperlight. The work list is another area that I go into that can be used for a lot of different things, in a Paperlight or a paperless environment.
Yes. Yeah, the work list is another great feature. I kind of call it a little mini whiteboard is kind of what I call it.
True.
Keeps a list of the services that need to be done. And it is treatment driven, so if you have a treatment entered in medical history, it automatically generates a work list. Jeremy, do you have any other suggestions for basics?
I would say Q&A is pretty basic and very useful for people that don't want to have a lot of sticky notes and random stuff stored around their front desk.
That's right. The Q&A feature allows you to put in questions and answers. So it does kind of help your staff. It keeps them from having to run back and forth to you. Maybe you have a specific protocol as to how you scan medical records into the database. You could put all of that in your Q&A feature, and then they could just go to one location and get the information. Those are very good, guys. For those of you that have already mastered these basics, maybe now you want to move to the next level. So now, let's talk about the next areas of utilization. Let's start with the whiteboard. The whiteboard is a centralized location to access all appointments and boarding reservations, hospital census, and treatment schedule for patients within the hospital. This area also works in conjunction with your medical condition record and patient estimates, giving you the flexibility to schedule specific services directly from those areas. This window is also a floating window, allowing it to be open at all times. Now, some larger clinics will display this window on a large screen monitor within the treatment area. Have you ever seen that, Dell, in any clinics you visited?
Yes, I have.
Okay. Hey, Sarah,
Yes.
do you have anything that you'd like to add about the whiteboard as to why it would be a great feature for paperless hospitals?
It sounds like you pretty much covered the basics of it, Jessica, but the whiteboard really is a great feature. It gives you the ease of staying within the one window, allowing you to check patients in. You can even change their status from there. You can see all their scheduled services as well as schedule services from there.
Yes. Okay, let's go on to the next feature. What about the dental chart? Now, use the dental chart as an ongoing dental record of your patients, allowing you to annotate presenting dental problems and procedures. Del, what percentage of clinics that you've trained utilize the dental chart?
Well, that's really difficult to say because normally when I go in to train a clinic, they've never used it before, and a lot of them have never even seen it. They've inquired about it, and they would like training on it. I think probably it's going to be probably around 40% of the clinics that I train want to be trained on it. Whether they continue to use it after I leave, I'm not real sure, but I do believe they do. It can be quite detailed, so it is something that they have to really pay attention to and really get some good training or really train themselves well. Otherwise, they may not use it.
Right.
About 40%, I guess.
Really? Okay. Okay. Let's talk about the note glossary. Dell kind of hit on this already. I do kind of consider this just a little bit more of an advanced feature, but if you want to start it out in the basics, that's great. The note glossary is where you can enter canned notes, and these would be common notes or instructions that you can import into notes windows throughout the program. And this allows you to create templates or predefined questions. I've even seen them do predefined questions that your staff needs to ask clients on a regular basis. What about digital imaging? You can attach digital images to any patient, client, medical history entry, treatment, item, diagnosis. This feature can be utilized to log a patient's medical progress with a condition or maybe even just a growth pattern. Maybe you have some entries in medical history of when they were a puppy, and as they gradually got older, you just kept a digital record of their progress. Sarah?
Yes.
Many people don't utilize photos within Avamart because they feel like it's too difficult. Do you have any suggestions for them?
My main suggestion would be to utilize tech support. They can walk you through how to set up your system to allow imaging. It really is very easy. There are just a few settings that you need to set in the advanced options. Then you're pretty much ready to go. It is a very easy feature to get started.
Yes. Del, do you have anything you want to add about photos?
Well, in my experience, one of the biggest thing is getting the pictures off the camera and taking them off one at a time instead of having to upload several pictures at a time. And I know that when they plug their camera in through the USB port, you have Windows. If the Windows program tries to open the camera, you have to cancel that window.
Okay.
Because what happens, it controls the camera, and then when you try to access the camera through the image editor window, it won't let you.
Okay.
So if you just kill it when it tries to open the Windows system, just X out of it, and then just when you open your image editor, click on the camera, and you can see the photographs. It means you can literally have a photograph in a matter of seconds within the computer from the time you take it.
Right, right. Okay. Now, since we're talking about digital imaging, we can also talk about file attachments. And file attachments give you the versatility of linking any file type to the client, patient, or individual medical history entry. This could be documents, it could be photographs, it could be a PDF file. This feature is useful for those documents that have been scanned and needing to be attached to the patient's medical record for future use. You just pretty much attach it to a medical history entry or to the patient or client area. Medical condition record, also known as SOAP. This is the area of the program that allows you to SOAP presenting problems by recording and posting current vital signs, presenting problems, physical exam findings, rule-outs, and plans from one window, making the patient's medical records more complete. This area also works in conjunction with your estimates, allowing you to import predefined estimates or build an estimate from your treatment or diagnostic plans. You also have the ability to export treatments into the Schedule tab of the whiteboard for your staff to perform later. Now, like Dell said earlier, if some people use the medical condition, well, I would say probably a majority, right, Dell, use medical condition record?
Absolutely, majority.
Okay. For those of you that maybe feels like the medical condition record is a little bit too cumbersome right now, you can utilize just a portion of the medical condition record, which is just this vitals area at the top, and maybe enter the rest into notes windows, utilizing your notes glossary. Do you have any other suggestions, Del?
Only if they're going to use the note glossary and use the notes section of a treatment, and the note glossary is they can set up a template, to mimic the medical condition record as far as the subjective, objective assessment and plan. So.
Okay. Okay. Now, on the medical condition record, we can also talk about the problem history of the patient. This is where you can view a patient's past open and closed problems from within the patient's problem history window. This can be accessed by doing like a right-click in the patient area, or it can also be viewed directly from your medical condition record. When utilizing this feature, it also gives you the ability to link specific problems to medical history entries if needed. The diagnosis list. You can utilize the diagnosis list to enter specific diagnoses directly into the patient's medical record. And you notice, like the image that I have up on the screen right now, it displays in red in medical history. This helps you utilize the Who Got feature and even some client education documentation if a patient was diagnosed with a specific diagnosis. These diagnoses can be added manually into medical history or posted from the medical condition record. Are there any other features that anyone feels like I've missed for paperless clinics? No?
Nope.
Nope. Did good, huh?
You might mention that NetNote is a program worth looking into because it improves communication throughout the practice, for larger practices especially.
Right. NetNote is like a sticky note program where you can kind of helps with your inter-office communication. It does integrate with Avamark, right, Jeremy? Okay. What exactly does it do?
It allows you to push client and patient information from one computer to another, and it also allows you to send messages based off the computer or the user logged in. So it's pretty flexible, and a lot of our power users that are paperless really like it.
Okay. And they can get that from Allshare, ALSHARE.com.
Yes.
And I think it's free right now, too.
Yes, it is free.
So they can go ahead and download that. And it does integrate with Avamark.
Yes.
Good. All right. All right, this is probably the most important thing for paperless clinics, backing up. It is so important to remember that you always have a current backup. Your data is the lifeblood of your clinic, and therefore you need to protect it. No one likes to imagine that it could happen to them, but unfortunately bad things do happen. Whether it's fire, flood, or thieves in the night, always back up your data. And this can be done by performing a nightly Avamark backup on some sort of removable media source, or by having an off-site backup service schedule, perform, and store the backup off-site for you, as with our Data Vault service here at MSS. Some other things that you may want to consider is training your staff. How would you train your staff to maybe go paperless? Maybe you want to introduce one step at a time during a weekly staff meeting, or schedule some over-the-phone training with us here at MSS. You also have the option of having a trainer like Dell to come in and train the entire staff. Now, when the trainers come on site, it is much easier for them to customize your training because they can see the flow of your practice and how Avamark can be utilized for your circumstances. Dell, are there any other benefits for having a trainer come on site?
Well, you mentioned one very important one, the flow of the work, and then to customize the program to best work with that flow, or determine if the flow maybe should be changed slightly to accommodate the program. But my biggest thing is, as you've said throughout this webinar, there are many, many areas of the program that they're going to utilize ultimately when they go paperless or Paperlite. And having a trainer on site to not only go through each one of those areas and how it interacts with the other areas and how to get it to interact, most efficiently is the main thing of having a trainer come on site. It's your data, your database, your setup, and then putting it all together to work for you.
Mm-hmm. And if anybody's interested in having a trainer come out to their clinic, they can contact us just by using option 4 and calling our 877 number. Another thing that I want you to become familiar with is legal requirements for maintaining electronic medical records in your area. Regulations can vary from state to state, so kind of be up to date on your legal requirements. Okay. Now, I think I've done enough talking, so it's time for questions or comments, and this is a great opportunity for our attendees to communicate with peers or on how they utilize paperless features, and maybe they have some more questions. Or any words of advice from the panel would be great. So if you guys have any questions, just raise your hand or type a question in the question and chat pane, and we will discuss them. Sarah, you're going to help me out with this?
I am helping you out, Jess. I'm looking, and I do not see any questions at this point, so I'll keep an eye on it. I know there has to be someone that has a question or, like you said, some advice on how you use paperless features in your practice. I know anyone would appreciate to hear from other clinics how they are using the features of Avamark.
Does anybody else on the panel want to say anything? Add anything to what we've been talking about? Don't all jump in at one time.
Okay.
Well,
Go ahead,
Dell
Jeremy.
had mentioned how things can work together really well in Avamark, and one of the best synergies that you can have is once you select appointment treatments and you start using your SOAP and your whiteboard, you can dictate what the patient needs to have done from the moment they're checked in, and the doctor can be doing the exam while simultaneously the users are prepping the things that are on the whiteboard. And if the doctor adds something to the SOAP, he can also add it to the whiteboard. So it creates a really good workflow for doctors that have more than one, staff member available to help them with their patients.
Yeah. A lot of the areas of the program actually do integrate together, and a lot of people don't know that. Well, the whiteboard can pretty much integrate with everything. It just accesses so many different areas of the program from one window.
Jessica?
Yes.
We do have a question.
Okay.
Okay, it looks like it is from, let me see, let me see, I've messed up. Sandra. She would like to know, and it's a great question, how do you find an attachment on a lengthy medical record?
Jeremy, do you have any suggestions for that? I can actually open up.
Yes, there's two ways. One, there's an attachments tab over on the far right on the bottom of medical history, and the other is you'll actually have a lowercase g in parentheses in the type column of the medical history for anything with an attachment.
So he's talking about this type column right here. Did that answer her question?
I believe so. Let me see. I believe we have somebody with their hand raised. John Knott.
John, are you there?
I believe we'll have to unmute him. Let me see if I can get John unmuted. Okay, I think I have John unmuted. John, are you there? Oh, never mind. John says he's pressed the button by mistake.
Oh.
All right. Let's see if we got somebody else that has a question. I believe we have one from Amanda. She says, I noticed on the medical history that a visit was highlighted in dark text. How can we do this?
Okay, does anybody else want to answer this question? And I can be the clicker.
Well, you
Sarah?
need to.
Or Dell, that's fine.
Oh, I was just going to say, I mean, first off, you have to use the appointment calendar and start check in the patients. If you want the default code in the hospital setups, the advanced options for the check-in is visit. If you don't particularly care for that code, it can be changed. When I do a training, I always reset the code and call it check-in because it's something about the visit that I from 11 years ago, somebody told me they didn't like to see that dollar sign, so I changed it to check-in. I changed it to check-in, but and then instead of having just posting notes to medical history, you have it tell it to post the visit to medical history, which is under the check-in process, and we're looking at that on the screen right now. Set that to true, and then when you check them in, be it from the appointment calendar or if it's a walk-in check-in with an F6 from the patient area, that entry will start the visit. So every visit starts with that code.
Let me see if I have somebody here. I can just check this pet in. And there it is. I just used the F6 function key.
Right.
You can also do a right-click, whiteboard, check-in.
Okay, I've got another question for you, Jessica. All right, Brett. Brett would like to know, what are some techniques recommended for the controlled substance report for setting it up correctly?
Okay, do you want to answer that, Sarah, and I'll be the clicker?
Sure. Okay. One of the first things is obviously you need to make sure that in your inventory itself, on your controlled substances, you need to make sure that they are set up correctly, meaning you do have your on-hand correct, etc. But one of the most important things is, if Jessica, if you go to your treatment list, or I believe our inventory, I'm sorry.
Okay, I'm in there.
Oh, okay. And if you will go to actually left-click and change on that particular item, there's a C action code, which stands for controlled substances. And that is the vital piece that needs to be there to have your controlled substances working. Really, as long as your item is set up and you have the C action code, as soon as you start entering these items in medical history, it's going to start keeping track of them on that controlled substance report.
Now that's, if you're receiving things from a vendor, though, you need to make sure that you have your purchasing information set up correctly as well, which would be your order pack and your order quantities, because Avamark does actually track anything received from a vendor on that controlled drug log as well. There's also a variance area. You may draw up 3 cc's of a euthanasia solution, but you only actually administer 2 cc's, so you need to account for that 1 cc that was waste, and that's called a variance, and those can be entered through medical history or through an inventory used window as well. Does anybody else have anything they want to add to that?
Yes, they need to make sure that any inventory that is being used in conjunction with a service, a treatment, is linked to the treatment, and if it's something that's not a fixed amount, then it should be set up that when they enter the treatment into medical history, it allows them to change how much inventory was actually used.
That is right. And that's just done through your treatment list, double-clicking on one of your services like this euthanasia, and going to the attachments area in the bottom right-hand corner and linking the euthanasia solution to your inventory or to your service. This allow override option allows you to change the quantity used whenever this service is entered in medical history.
Also, you'll need to make sure the NDC or MSDS number is set up on the item, and the DEA number is set up on the doctor itself and on each doctor that's prescribing, and in work with hospitals set up in the demographics area for the clinic. One other thing is there are many states that have very specific requirements, and we have a utility program for that called ASAP. It's very important if you're starting to set up your controlled substances, give tech support a call and make sure that you don't need to use that ASAP utility.
Which states this is for? Alabama, Michigan, Mississippi, New York, Tennessee, and Oklahoma.
And California also has special
And California.
requirements.
Okay, yeah. Is there any more states that are being added to this, Jeremy?
Constantly, but not
Okay.
that I'm aware of right now.
Okay.
There's always something in the works.
Okay. And this is built into your program, too. If you're one of these states that requires this report, if you go through your utilities, there's a utilities option, and in the name field, you're just going to type ASAP, and there's your utility program right there.
Okay, we do have somebody that has their hand raised.
And it's not John Knott.
And it's not John Knott. It is Dee. Dee, I'm going to unmute you. Okay, Dee, are you with us?
Did she raise her hand accidentally, too?
Maybe. Still can't hear anything. I'm going to go ahead and unmute you, Dee. If you want to, go ahead and type your question in and we'll read it aloud. Let me see. We do have some other questions. Let me see which one is our next one. Okay, Sheila. Sheila would like to know if we have any recommendations for tablets and what are other practices using and what works with Applemark.
All right, Chuck or Jeremy? Are you there?
I guess I'll talk. I was going to let it be Chuck. But, the main thing with tablets is to recognize that the screens are much smaller, so you're going to have a lot harder time seeing like the SOAP record. Also, make sure that the requirements are at least past the minimum, because a lot of tablets have much lower hardware specifications than a regular laptop or a desktop especially. And the main benefit of a tablet is the wireless capabilities and the portability, but with Avamark, depending on your clinic layout, that could actually be a hindrance, because if your signal gets interrupted by anything like a cell phone or cinder-filled walls or lab equipment, then you'll have to reconnect to the Avamark.
One thing that they need to remember about a tablet PC is that the smaller the unit, the slower the processor is, the slower the computer is as a whole, because speed generates heat. And the other thing to remember about those tablet PCs, which, you know, people use them all the time, is to remember that they're very hard to keep clean. and you're in an environment that is not conducive to cleanliness. No matter how clean the clinic is, there's still a lot of animal hair, pet dander, that sort of stuff floating in the air, and it gets sucked into these units, and they're harder to clean. So that means they're going to get hotter, and heat will degenerate the motherboard and other electronics on board the unit. So besides the connectivity, you just need to remember that you also have you're going to have a slower unit. Now, once you get into the Avamark program, you're not going to see that much slowness, but you're only going to be running at speeds of approximately 50 megabits per second, or even if you get the high speed, maybe 75, compared to wired networks of up to 1,000 megabits per second. So as long as you understand the speed differential and the connectivity issues, then tablet PCs are fine. But I would go a little further than what Jeremy said and make sure you get tablets that are on the high end of our recommendations. They'll last longer.
Great.
Okay, I see Dee typed in her question, so I'm going to go ahead and read this aloud.
Okay.
She wants to know if anyone has used the program that we mentioned, the Dragon Naturally Speaking. She says they are a husband and wife team, with the husband not a typer and not on board. Especially Dell, since he is visiting clinics, do you know of any clinics personally that have used the Dragon Naturally Speaking?
Well, I know of clinics that have used it, but I can't offhand tell you who they are. That would, because I don't keep that kind of records when I train. But I have had clinics, I've gone into multiple clinics that have used Dragon Naturally Speaking. I've not been into any that have gone with the higher end one that has the medical dictionary. It's easier to train because there is a certain amount of training when using, in other words, training for your voice inflection. But relatively, it's fairly simple, and it's not a bad thing. It's a good thing.
I know Dr. Pittenger says he uses it, and he didn't like the, Dr. Pittenger is in Houston, Texas. He's one of our power users. He uses it, and he said that the medical side, he didn't really like the medical one. He just liked the plain Jane.
Well, that saved you several $1,000s because there's several $1,000 difference between the plain Jane and the one with the big medical dictionary.
Right, right. We can maybe give the person that asked the question, I can't remember her name, I'm sorry, Dr. Pittenger's email address maybe to talk to him about Dragon.
Sure. Okay. It looks like our next question is from Sandra. She said, would you recommend having master copies of all of your services with the dollar amounts on there and all of your clients for when a power failure occurs?
From my personal experience, we did that. I don't know what you recommend, Dell.
Well, are we talking about like a travel sheet? Is that basically the question?
That's what I'm assuming she's meaning.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. With having a printed travel sheet, it can come in handy. Sometimes people can look up things quicker on that than they can to a computer, especially if there's no computer that is available. But there's nothing wrong with that. But I wouldn't have anything other than that. That would be the only thing I'd keep copies of.
Okay. Who else, Sarah? Oh, Jeremy, go ahead.
I was going to say also, if you do have a laptop at the clinic with Sidekick or just as a workstation, if you kept a copy of your client's, your whole Avamark on that laptop, in a pinch, you could use it to access the medical records for a couple hours on the battery life.
Oh, that's true.
And another suggestion, generators are fairly inexpensive now. And there's nothing wrong with having you can have a relatively inexpensive generator if you needed to that you could power, probably power your server, maybe one computer. You were not going to power your whole building, but you would be able to get back on.
Okay. Who's next, Sarah?
It looks like we have one from Amanda. She says, what about the device that you can put signatures on for estimates and consent forms, and how do we feel these work?
Yes, she's talking about the Topaz signature device.
That's what
Jeremy,
I'm assuming.
Jeremy, do you have any experience with those?
This is actually something that Dell and I spoke about at the users conference, and it's something that we're going to work towards making more user-friendly. Right now it is possible, but it's quite a few steps, and it's more cumbersome than what most people are willing to invest the training in.
Okay. Dell, did you have anything you want to add to that?
No, I mean that's basically what we discussed, because I have clinics ask me all the time if they can use that, so they don't have to, for example, print an estimate, have it signed, and then scan it back in. Of course, there's other ways of doing that. There are a lot of clinics don't necessarily scan them back in, but at this point, I don't have any suggestions on the signing devices, signing blocks.
Okay.
Okay, we do have a question from Karen. Karen would like to know, is there a way to change the codes for a posted follow-up so it doesn't have that $sign in the code?
For the posted follow-up? Oh, the
Yes.
follow-up note.
Yeah, the up notes.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know of a way. Do you, Dell?
No, not at this point, but it could be. It's an excellent suggestion. It could be incorporated into the advanced options, just like the visit code, so that it could be user-defined.
Mm-hmm. Jeremy, you don't know a way around that, do you?
I was going to say what Dell just said.
Did you? Okay. So unfortunately not.
We do have another question, wanting to know, and this is a great question, if there are any good publications that can help someone learn about going paperless.
Oh, other than what we have on our website, which is just a very short document. Jeremy, do you have anybody you send them to or recommend anything?
Usually what isn't Dr. Pittenger's class, doesn't he normally put that on his website? Because that's one of the best guides I've ever seen for it.
That's right, he does. We'll have to see if Dr. Pittenger, he comes to our annual conference almost every year and does a class, like a 2 or 3 hour class on going paperless. And he actually has a PowerPoint presentation that you can download from his website. And we'll have to see if we can find that, maybe talk to him and see if we can borrow it. So make sure somebody gets your email address or anybody else that would like it, and maybe we could try to get that to them. Dell, do you have any suggestions for that?
No, I know Dr. Pittenger does do that. I don't know if he leaves that up year-round, because it seemed like at one time he left it up only for a short time, but it's open to anybody at that point, so I'm sure he would provide it.
Okay. Anybody else, Sarah?
Yes.
Go
ahead, Jeremy.
I just checked his website, and it's on there right now.
Oh, it is. What's his website?
It's MEM610.com/Avamark for the handouts that he had at the conference.
Okay. Can you say that again just in case somebody was trying to scramble for a pen?
Yes, it's MEM610.com/Avamark.
Okay. All right, go ahead, Sarah. I'm sorry.
That's okay. Our next question is again from Amanda. She says, what do you suggest to do instead of scanning back in?
Dell, do you have any suggestions?
Well, it depends on what it is. A lot of the clinics that I have trained and other clinics that I've talked to, if they don't give the document a very high priority, for example, they may only keep the estimate for 6 months to a year, and they frankly will print the estimate, have it signed, and they'll put it into a tickler file, and then 1 year later it gets pulled and those are shredded. They're making the assumption that if nothing has happened within 1 year of the procedure, then probably nothing's going to happen, legally anyway. And so that they're not keeping them. And some are even doing the same thing on surgery release documents. I'm not necessarily recommending that, but some I know are doing that.
Okay.
And also along those same lines, somebody did ask if a scanned document would be legal down the road in a court of law.
Anybody have anything they want to say about that?
Well, my understanding is that they're absolutely legal. The only concern that you have is if they want to know if there was any way it could have been altered, electronically altered from the time that it was originally scanned until the time it was produced in the court. And that's where your backups come in very critical. If you have a backup, from that time slot that shows that this is the way it was on one calendar date and this is what it is on the date of court, then you're safe. You have no problem whatsoever.
Okay. That's a good Good suggestion there. Sarah, do we have time for one more?
Yep, we're going to handle, I believe we have one more we can answer, so I'm just going to take the next one that was on the list, and I believe it is from Sandra. She would like to know, how do we handle consent forms and estimates and waivers that require signatures?
That probably goes along the same lines as what we were just talking about, you know, scanning and attaching them to the medical record. Or like Dell said, actually keeping it in a file. Anything else? Anybody else want to add anything to that? No? Okay, we can do one more, Sarah.
Okay. Let me see if I can see the next one. Oh, we have John Fox. He would like to know, do you scan all of the paper records into Avamark?
Dell, what do you suggest for that?
Well, most clinics will start scanning them in. They may go back and try to, get their most active clients, and those they'll scan in first. But I don't, and I have known a few clinics that have gone back and scanned everything in, no matter how many years it's been since they've been last in. But if your state is, say, 7 years, if they haven't been in 7 years, I certainly wouldn't scan that in. But not everybody scans them all in. They may just archive them someplace off-site in a warehouse. But anybody active, last 2 to 3 years, would definitely be scanned in.
Okay. Okay. Well, I want to thank my panel of speakers that I have with me today and all of the attendees joining us today's webinar. I thought it was a great webinar. If you would like to learn more details about some of the basic paperless features, please be sure to attend our next paperless webinar this month on January 20th at 2:00 p.m. Central Standard Time. And you can sign up for these webinars on our website. We hope that you can put some of these features that we discussed today into action, and we wish you luck in the great journey ahead. We hope everyone has a wonderful day.